Welcome learners. Now let us discuss about the research methodology, the important aspects of research, variables and its types in this session. Now look at this scenario. Imagine a school test through interactive teaching methods, improved student performance compared to traditional lectures. So, initial results show better grades with interactive methods. However, could teacher experience students' motivation or prior knowledge by affecting the outcomes? To know this answer, right, let me ask you a question first. How do different types of variables influence the outcomes of research, and why is understanding them crucial for drawing accurate conclusions? To know this answer, it is very essential to understand the concept in depth. So let us proceed with the topic's learning objectives now. So by the end of this unit for the topic, you will be able to discuss the meaning of variables, explain the types of variables.
A variable is anything that can change or vary. It represents a quantity or value that is not fixed. For example, in a study exploring the relationship between stress levels and academic performance among university students, both stress and academic performance serve as variables. The stress levels can range from low to high, while academic performance may vary from poor to excellent. Similarly, age can also be considered a variable as it differs from one individual to another. A variable is defined as anything that can change, or a quantity that can take on different values. To qualify as a variable, it must have at least two observable values. For example, the outcome of a coin flip is a variable with two possible values, heads or tails. Similarly, rolling a die represents a variable with 6 observable outcomes. In behavioral sciences, variables are defined more precisely. Curlinger 1986 described a variable as a property with different values. D. Amato 1970 defined it as a measurable attribute of objects, events, or beings. Postman and Egan 1949 stated that a variable is a characteristic or attribute capable of taking on multiple values. Common examples of variables in psychological research include reaction time, problem-solving ability, IQ, gender, stress levels, and light intensity. Further about variables, it is important to consider how they relate to theoretical concepts. While variables are observable in the real world, theories represent abstract ideas. To bridge the gap between these, researchers rely on assumptions that connect theoretical concepts to measurable variables. These assumptions serve as guidelines linking intangible ideas to tangible data. For example, variables such as reaction speed, questionnaire responses, or attendance rates can be observed and measured, whereas theoretical concepts like motivation, stress, or happiness remain abstract and intangible. Researchers use operational definitions to measure these concepts and relate them to variables. For example, consider a theory proposing that higher stress levels reduce focus. To test this idea, researchers translate the abstract concepts of stress and focus into measurable variables. For instance, stress could be quantified using a stress questionnaire, while focus might be evaluated by counting the errors made during a task. These measurements represent the study's variables. The relationship between these variables, stress levels, and task performance, is then examined to determine whether the theory is supported or contradicted. Let's look at the SOR variable. The first is stimulus S variables. These refer to environmental factors or forms of energy, such as sound or light, to which an organism is sensitive. Organism O variables, these are physiological or psychological characteristics of the organism, such as stress level, age, or heart rate. Response R variables, these involve the behavior or action of the organism, such as moving towards a sound or avoiding an obstacle. For example, imagine an experiment where a cat is exposed to a bright light stimulus variable and its pupil dilation response variable is measured. The organism variable could be the cat's alertness level. Variable can also be categorized into independent and dependent variables. Independent variable, this is the factor manipulated or selected by the researcher to observe its effect. It is sometimes categorized as type E independent variable. Here E stands for experimental. These variables are directly manipulated, such as changing light intensity in a study on reading speed. Type S independent variable, here S stands for subject. These variables are selected but not directly manipulated. such as studying the effect of age on memory recall. Dependent variable dV, this is the factor that changes in response to the independent variable. For example, in a study on the effect of study duration IV on test scores dV, test scores vary based on the study duration. Dependent variables can be measured in terms of frequency, how often a behavior occurs, duration, how long a behavior lasts, latency, the time taken to initiate a behavior, force, the intensity of the behavior. Another categorization of variables is extraneous and confounded variables. What are extraneous variables? These are other factors that might influence the dependent variable and need to be controlled to isolate the effect of the independent variable. They include organismic variables, characteristics like personality, intelligence, or health. Situational variables, environmental factors such as noise, temperature, or lighting. Sequential variables, effects like fatigue or learning from repeated exposure to experimental conditions. Now, let's look at confounded variables. These occur when two variables are unintentionally combined, making it difficult to determine their individual effects. For instance, if a study on sleep patterns groups teenagers in one category and adults in another, age becomes confounded with the variable of sleep duration. The fourth type of variables are active and attribute variables. Active variables, these are deliberately manipulated by the researcher, such as offering rewards or creating stress through specific instructions. Attribute variables, these are inherent characteristics measured but not manipulated, such as creativity, educational background, or cultural beliefs. For instance, a study examining the effect of stress active variable on creativity attribute variable would measure creativity without altering it. Quantitative and categorical variables. Quantitative variables, these vary in amount and include measures like reaction speed, height, or academic scores. Categorical variables, these vary in kind and include constant variables with only one value, such as water or sky. Dichotomous variables with two categories, like pass-fail or yes-no. Polytomous variables with more than two categories, such as sports preference, football, cricket, tennis. Continuous and discrete variables are yet another category. Continuous variables, these can be measured with high precision, such as reaction time or height. For example, a person's age can be recorded in years, months, and days. Discrete variables, these have distinct gaps between values, such as the number of pets in a household or books in a library. Understanding these distinctions helps in designing robust research and accurately interpreting results.
In this topic, you have learned that variables are measurable elements in research that can change or vary. They are classified into types such as S, O, R variables, means stimulus, organism, and response variables. Stimulus, remember what we discussed, right? Organism, what we discussed, and as well as response. Okay. So next is independent and dependent variables, extraneous variables, and confounded variables, active and attribute variables, quantitative and categorical variables, continuous and discrete variables. Thank you and happy learning.